Hey everyone. I am starting just a few minutes early so that we can just say hi and get to know each other a little bit. So let's see. If you can hear me and if everything sounds okay, go ahead and just let me know in the chat, which I'm going to keep an eye on. Awesome. Awesome. I see people coming in. Hi, Gregory. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Nicole. Oh, sounds great. Thank you. So everyone can hear me okay? It's going good? All right. Awesome. I would love it. Some of you have already done this, but I would just love if you would just introduce yourselves in the chat. Um, Looks sunny. Yes. Well, it's sort of an optical illusion because I live in South Dakota where there's snow, and so it's just like sunlight reflecting off the snow, but maybe it's still good for us. I also have a special guest. I'm gonna try to like move my computer so you can see here on the edge of my chair. This is Midori, my 16-year-old cat, and she's just gonna kind of hang out with us today while we talk about marketing because she needs to learn how to market herself a little better. Hello, Brittany. Hello, Emma. Hello, everyone. Hello, David. Everyone is saying hello, Midori. She doesn't seem to care, but I don't think she cares about most things. All right, let's see. Keep letting me know. Let's see. Hi, Eddie. Let's see, we've got Eddie Louise, writer of the Tales of Sage and Savant audio drama. We have Mike from The Awkward Screw. We have Gregory, who says Midori is the real mastermind and I am her puppet. That's probably true. We have Kamisha Sims, hi. Emma Quinn, who is Emma and/or Quinn. Oh, you right. Have you seen me? Perfect. Perfect. I'm glad that you're here. We're going to be talking about marketing. Hi, Bethany. Bethany is here with her cat Strawberry as well. Caitlin is here. She creates the White Vault and Liberty podcasts with more on the way. I want to know more about that. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there's so many people coming in. Thank you all so much for coming today. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Keep introducing yourselves and sharing in the chat here. Raul Vega is here. He's the creator of the Rose Drive podcast, which if you have not heard Rose Drive, get on that. It's so good. Oh, perfect. Gregory Bratton from Inspector Verlo Morton Lee, a comedy murder mystery, probably out within a month. Oh my gosh, congratulations. So you're looking into marketing at exactly the right time. Perfect. Yes, Caitlin, dogs do count. Ezo is here with you. Hello, Ezo. Hi, Tori. Tori doesn't have a podcast yet, but Tori is a graphic designer and in marketing already. Perfect. Good. About to start. Gregory knows of everyone else here, so maybe that's a good sign. Oh, Jared from the Crypto Naturalist is here. I was recently on a panel with Jared at PodCon just in Seattle last week, and it was just, he's a very smart and wonderful person. And so if you're not following the Crypto Naturalist, give it a listen. It's really cool. Britt Winchester makes Snark Tank, a comedy show about inventions. I love that. Oh, perfect. Looking Stunning is hoping to premiere an audio fiction podcast in late spring. And Angel, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, but you're trying to make 2019 the year you finish your creative project. Good. You're working on an audio drama. Okay, perfect. Jimmy is here. Oh, Kamisha's about to publish a novel series soon. 10 years. You've been working on this for 10 years. Oh my gosh. WN Vincent from Nigeria, hoping to run a podcast soon. Welcome. Welcome. Hello. Forenza Audio. Hello. I love to see that you're all popping in. We'll go ahead and get started soon. I'm just going to take a sip of coffee because that's where I get my energy from. Midori is still here. She's looking at the door though, and so I'm wondering if that means um, she's yeah. Hi. Were you looking at the door? She might want to run away. So if at some point I get up and you're not sure why I'm getting up, it's because I need to let my anxious cat out of my office so that I can actually do a live stream without interruption. Oh, perfect. Forenza is hoping to start a podcast once you get finished with the writing process. Brittany doesn't have a podcast yet either, but works in marketing. Oh, very cool. Wants to help out her coworkers who do a sports podcast. Coffee is the sweetest elixir of life. You know. Oh, thank you. Bethany's cat Strawberry is encouraging her to start a podcast, which I'm very good job, Strawberry. You know what's up. Oh, perfect. Hello, Mikey Bob. Your cat's in your office too. Lindsay is working on a memorial podcast for a poet. Oh, Radio Man grandfather. Hello, Samuel from Ethiopia. It's wonderful to see you here. Ready to start a podcast with a collaborator. Hello, Cassie from Florida. You have an actual play podcast, but you'd like to transition into audio dramas. That's really exciting. It's a good place to be. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on here. Awesome. Alexa T says, I want to start a podcast eventually from a short sci-fi story I'm working on. Good. That's how I started Girl in Space. So that's really awesome. Emma Quinn says there needs to be a podcast about the cats of podcasting. Are we going to call it Podcats? Okay. Oh, Nicole says a purrcast. Oh, I like that even better. This is wonderful. So we'll come up with our marketing strategy for our cat podcast in just a little bit. In the meantime, welcoming Horace Williams Jr., who's starting a Christian-based inspirational encouragement podcast to go along with your books. Wonderful. Oh, Alexa says Girl in Space encouraged you. That makes me really happy. Thank you. Oh, man. Oh, there is a show called The Purrcast already. Oh my gosh. Well, guess what I'm listening to after this live stream? Me and the Purrcast. Oh, wonderful. I'm going to get just a few things set up here while we're doing this. You're finding the Purrcast as we speak. Oh, Rashawn Foster is here. Hello. Oh, you'd love to do a podcast. Oh, that makes me super happy. Welcome to the live stream. Oh, this is so wonderful. It is 12:02, and I would like to be respectful of people's time if they are joining us over lunch or if they have other time constraints today. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my presentation, which I have for you today because I care. Let's see. We'll go ahead and share this one. I'll scoot this over here. Thank you for bearing with me momentarily. All right. We're going to go ahead and present. All right. And we're going to make this full screen. Maybe. There we go. Perfect. Tori says the Purrcast is an ambient podcast of purring. So there's that. All right. Can everyone still hear me okay? Manolyn B says hi. Hello. Lindsay H says, hopefully I can make my sci-fi story into a podcast. Good. Good. Well, we're going to start talking today. Oh, perfect. Perfect. You can hear me okay. Everything looks like, knock on wood, it is running smoothly. I have coffee, and so I'm happy. Oh, perfect. Hi, Christopher. You just joined. Can hear me fine. Perfect. Andrew, welcome. Christopher, hello. Perfect. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about marketing your podcast like a pro. There is just so much that goes into this. When we talk about marketing has a lot of, it's a large topic, we'll say. And I feel like there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of different things going on there. So we're going to work through some of those today and take a look at what it actually means to market your podcast. So I'm going to start by introducing myself. Some of you who are watching this live may know me because I asked you to join me live so that you could morally support me because you're wonderful. And I did introduce myself in the previous lesson to this, which was 5 secrets to a successful podcast. But I'm going to introduce myself again, just in case some of you are joining me for the first time. I'm Sarah Ray Werner. I've been podcasting since 2014 when I launched my first show, which was called the Right Now Podcast. And that's write as in, the act of writing, because puns. And that show helps writers of all skill levels to find the time, energy, and courage they need to pursue their passion and write every day. I left my day job in April 2017. So I'd been marketing for 10 years, and I left my day job to podcast, write, and speak full time. And then in September of that year, I launched the Girl in Space audio drama, which is a fictional podcast that sort of has changed my life forever. So that's a little bit about me. Before we really dive in, go ahead, if you can, turn off your phone, close the other tabs, get rid of any distractions, just so that you can kind of pay full attention to what's going on the screen here, and so you can really soak up all of the knowledge that I'm sending your way. You might also want to grab a pen and paper to take notes. Hi, Hendo. My good friend Mark Henderson is here and says, yes, you did. He is just such a champion. My gosh. All right. So those of you looking to take notes, go ahead and do that. Get your pens ready. We're going to just dive in and start. I do want to give you a quick caveat. The reason I'm doing this is to sort of promote my upcoming course. So I'm teaching a course on podcasting, and it is a giant, full-blown 12-week comprehensive course. So this is like a college course. And I'm going to be talking about that not today, but I'll be talking about that at the end of our next session. And so please do stick around at the end of our next session for that. Again, I'm not pushy. I'm not a salesperson, and we'll be talking a little bit about that today in the presentation. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that this will be available soon. All right, so many of you are in the chat right now. I would love to ask you, do you currently have a podcast? Yes or no? And I'll give it a second because there is just a little bit of lag. Yes, okay, yep. A lot of people, yep. Okay, a lot of people coming in. Yes, there's a few no's. Some people have Travis has a couple podcasts because he's wonderful. Perfect, starting a new one. Yes, soon. Yes, almost launching in February. Amazing, perfect. That's really good to know what we're already dealing with. So those of you, either if you do or don't have a podcast, how many of you have a marketing plan for your podcast? Nicole Birdie is working on like 5 podcasts, which is amazing. And some people have gotten out of podcasting, looking to get back into it. Perfect. How many of you, do you have a marketing plan? And it's okay if you don't. Like, don't feel afraid to say no. So kind of, oddly enough, yes, no marketing plan yet, barely, basically just me on Twitter. Perfect. I'm seeing a lot of kind ofs. An extremely disorganized, way too broad one, says Dear Young Rocker. Good. Making connections on Twitter. Good. Marketing plan, yes, but it could be better, says Caitlin. Social only. And then Bethany says, no plans at all, completely at square one. Groping in the dark, says Travis. Perfect. Don't be afraid. If that's you, we're going to get you to the light. This is going to be a good thing. Those of you who already are doing marketing, are your current marketing efforts working for you? Are you feeling good about your marketing? I know this is part of the plan. It's some people have a podcast, some people have a podcast and a marketing plan. Some people have a podcast, a marketing plan, and a ton of frustration that their marketing plan is not working. Lindsay says, tried Twitter, got confused and gave up. Growing but want more stability, not really. So far, yes. Excellent. Excellent. So far, marketing is working, and I love that. Hopefully, we'll still be able to get you a few pointers today that can really help you grow your marketing. very slowly. No, it's not working. Okay. And finally, this will be the last question just for a little bit. What is your biggest marketing hangup? Where is it that you get stuck? Some of you were mentioning earlier that even the word marketing has your stomach tied up in knots. But for you, what is your biggest marketing hangup? Dear Young Rocker says, shaking hands has been my best tool so far. Yes, we are going to talk about that, the personal connection and the personal touch and how important that is in marketing. Money is the biggest marketing hangup. Introversion. Consistency. Yep. Finding the correct audience. No idea how to reach those downloads. Marketing is a scary word. Not sure where I end and my project begins. Lindsay, that is really insightful and a really interesting point that I'd love to talk about. No idea where to start. Some people are saying money, which I understand. Getting people to sign up for our newsletters, marketer's block. Burnout as a daily marketer. Jimmy says, yes, the very word marketing makes me feel oogie. Yes. Micah says, narrowing the scope. Who is my audience exactly? These are all fantastic questions, and that's a great place to start. Confidence. There's a lot of different hangups when it comes to marketing. And I want to ask you, sorry, this is our real final question. Does any of these sound like you? You can tell me in the chat if you are 1, 2, 3, 4, or all of the above of these following options. So number 1, is this you? I'm overwhelmed by the thought of marketing because I'm not 100% sure what it even is. So are you overwhelmed by it? You're frustrated because you spend a ton of time on social media and it doesn't seem to be getting you anywhere. You can't even think about marketing right now because you don't have a budget. I saw some of you mentioned that. Or do you avoid marketing altogether because you don't want to look like you're selling out? I didn't see that one resonate with a ton of people. For me, that was my hang up when I initially started marketing my shows. But which one of these is you? I'm seeing, Travis says guilty on all of them. Brad says 2, 3, and 4, 1, 1 and 3. Oh my gosh, Gregory put in like a schematic of percentages here. All of the above, anxious, yep. Oh, anxious student problems. Travis says, we are ready to sell out. I love it. Looking Stunning says none of them actually. And there's a lot of nuanced reasons why we're not comfortable with marketing. I'm worried that I'm seeming spammy. That was exactly it, says Katie. Yes. We're all broke college students. Yeah, big mood. Okay, and my cat is scratching to be let out of my office. So 1 second, I'm going to let her out. Yes, I know. Here you go. Okay, I'm back for real. All right, so no matter if you were 1, 2, 3, 4, something else, nothing at all, we're going to handle those feelings. Nobody wants to feel spammy. I get that. What you're going to learn today is going to be, number 1, the surprising truth of what marketing actually is. Gregory says, I told you the cat was in charge. No lie. The cat is definitely in charge here. Number 2, we're going to learn how to market your show like a professional. Number 3, we're going to talk about the number 1 rule of marketing that can make or break your brand. So before we begin, before we learn those 3 points, I want to walk you through a little bit my experience with marketing and exactly what that word means for me and why it's kind of loaded. So 10 years ago, and it's 10 plus years ago because I don't want to tell you how old I am, but 10 plus years ago, I graduated from college. That's me on the right-hand side with the longer hair. I was an English major and I had no idea what I was going to do. And in fact, I actively despised marketing because I thought it was manipulative. I thought it was something that like the man was doing. And I was like, I'm never going to sell out. I'm going to be an independent artist and, you know, I'll be a starving artist and that's going to be great and very noble of me. And so I was actually very, very against marketing. So, of course, after working for 2 years for a software company in Chicago, I switched jobs, and of course, I went into marketing. So this is me. Working at a bank. I was doing in-house marketing, so traditional marketing at a bank, which means that I was sort of doing what you think of when you think of marketing: advertisements, creating brochures, doing client mass mailings, working vendor booths at expos. I was sort of doing all of those traditional marketing things. We had billboards, we had bus wraps, all of that stuff. And I found that I didn't hate it because I was getting to use my English degree because I was working with words and messaging. And so I found that I didn't hate it and I was actually kind of okay at it. I did still feel like there was something I needed, though. And so in January 2012, I switched to working for a digital marketing agency. This is really where I found my calling and hit my stride. I was free to experiment here and learn a ton. And yes, this is me in this picture. Um, I don't know if you can see my mouse. I'm circling me. Yes, I'm wearing a felt beard because it was lumberjack day in the office. And so I'm wearing a felt beard here. But this is just such a great crew to work with. I learned a lot from them. And I really began to understand the power of marketing. So after I was in marketing, digital marketing for a while, I started getting invited to speak at local and regional marketing conferences. So I was able to establish myself as a local expert in marketing. And while I was doing that, I launched my first podcast, which was the Right Now podcast. And my life drastically changed again because this was one of the things that I started kind of as a marketing experiment. I've talked a little bit more at length about why I started this show and what it's done for me. So I won't reiterate all of that here. But yes, the Right Now podcast was one of my marketing experiments, and I learned a lot when I launched it. Then, like in September 2017, I launched Girl in Space and went from 0 listens, 0 followers, etc., to where I am today. And again, yes, this was a marketing experiment. Okay, I was going to say, I see people in the chats asking if I'm gone, but I'm super duper here. I am here for you. All right. So after I launched my second show, Girl in Space, things started getting crazy. I started showing up on the front page of iTunes. So you can see here, this is the front page of iTunes, and I saw my show here and just about had a heart attack, which was a new thing for me. Girl in Space popped into the top 5 for arts podcasts. Yeah, along with a lot of my heroes like The Moth, The Black Tapes, and yeah. I had a little bit of like hee hee because I was even above like LeVar Burton's show for a while. And like that just was so freaking delightful. Then I hit 100,000 downloads. Girl in Space was featured on the front page of Spotify. And recently, I hit 500,000 downloads with another 100,000 on Spotify and tons more on Pandora, which kind of don't get factored into your stats. But together, my podcasts have over 1 million total downloads, which is just, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And I want to point out that none of this passively happened. Like, none of it just happened to me. This happened because of certain actions I took, and these are actions that you can take too. I want to emphasize this because you don't just really sit around waiting for success to find you. Like, no one is going to discover you. No one's going to like knock on your door and say, "Hello, are you a podcaster? And can I make you very famous?" You have to find success. And to do that, you have to discover the power of marketing. And I also want to point out that it's not just about numbers. I love my numbers and I love the people and the generous community that helped me get to this many downloads. But we'll talk about this when we talk about how marketing actually works, but it's about community. It's about community. I am part of an amazing supportive community on Twitter, on Reddit. I have a beautiful Discord chat room. Some of you are here today with us, where people discuss fan theories and share fan art, all of that great stuff. Most importantly, though, I get letters from people in my community saying that I was able to help them and change their lives. I'm looking at the chat. Brad Munson says, the worst lie in marketing is if you build it, they will come. Amen. You can't just build something and expect people to find it. You need to help them find it. So I would love to see this all happen to you. It's not just about numbers. It's about creating community, and it's about changing lives. I have a few examples here. I won't go through and read them, but just some listener mail that I get that just really speaks to my heart. So today, I get to be a successful small business owner and live off of my podcasts, and it's amazing. And I'm just really grateful to be here. All of this is because of marketing. So I want to say marketing is magic if you do it right. So take a deep breath, because we're going to dive into the pool of marketing. So the first question that I get asked a lot is, do I really need marketing? And I've found that a lot of people don't think so, or that they have that sort of, like Brad said, if you build it, they will come mentality. One of my favorite people who I follow online is Seth Godin, and I took this from one of his recent posts from January here in 2019. And he says, yes, you need marketing for these reasons. If there are people who would benefit from your work who aren't engaging with you, yes, you would benefit from marketing. If there is a change you want to make, but it's not happening, yes, you need marketing. If you are having difficulty persuading other people of your point of view, yes, you need marketing. If the service or product or podcast you make isn't resonating yet with those you seek to serve, yes, you need better marketing if you're fighting in a race to the bottom and it's wearing you out. Seth Godin is one of my, I hate the word guru, but he's one of my gurus in marketing. And a lot of what I've learned working for the marketing advertising agency that I worked for before, it was from him. It's when I discovered his blog and really learned from him. So with all that in mind, yes, we need marketing. Nobody's going to passively find our show. We need to share it with them. What exactly is marketing? And when I ask this, I find that not a lot of people know what marketing is, especially if they're like me and they're coming from the more creative creator background like I did. Renee Rhodes says, Seth Godin, yes, yes. Marketing is community. Marketing is your tribe. Yes. Marketing, first and foremost, I'm going to start with what marketing is not. Marketing is not a dirty word. Marketing is not a dirty word. Marketing is a tool. Marketing is not the act of buying advertisements. It's not the act of recording radio spots or putting up billboards or shilling out money for this and that. Marketing is not even necessarily selling. Okay, so these are all the things that are what is marketing not. So what is marketing? In my experience, marketing begins with understanding who you are and the value that you bring. Marketing begins with understanding. And I talked about this a little bit in my previous live stream that I did about the 5 secrets to a successful podcast. And I talked about crafting your mission statement and understanding your vision and knowing who you are, who your audience is, and what value you can bring to them. It all begins, though, with understanding who you are and what kind of value you can give to people. That's really important to articulate. Marketing begins with honesty. Oh, thank you. Tim just put a link to the last live stream in the chat. So those of you who haven't seen that yet, there is a replay if you'd like to see it. There's a lot of Well, I think it's valuable information in there. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Marketing begins with honesty, and good marketing begins with honesty. Marketing that looks to innovate and will put you in a race to the top, and not, like Seth Godin said, a race to the bottom. I gave a talk back in 2015, and it was called Let's Be Honest, and it was about honesty in advertising, honesty in marketing. And Brad Munson says brutal honesty sometimes. Yes, this is so important. We need honesty in marketing, or otherwise it becomes a sham. This is so important, and it's so overlooked, but it's really the only way we are going to connect with people. Because marketing is connecting. Marketing is the act of connecting your show with the people who will love it and need to hear it. Marketing is building that bridge between your podcast and your potential listeners. Marketing is the act of building relationships and building community. But there are very, very few courses out there that will actually tell you that. It's the act of relationships and community building. Marketing is honesty when you do it right, because trust is currency. Marketing is generosity, and marketing is necessary. In the chat, Angel asks, is marketing the same thing as branding? Branding is an element of marketing, and we can talk a little bit about that in a more in-depth session. That's a really good question, though. Marketing begins way before launch. So a lot of folks make their show, they release it, and then they start to think about marketing after they're already done with their show. But I think what you need to be doing is marketing from the very day that you get the idea in your head to podcast. And I know some of you who have already started, you're like, oh no, it's too late. But that's not true. It is not too late to start marketing. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So there is no worry. If you haven't started marketing yet, that's okay. The second best time to start is right now. Okay, so how do we market? What is marketing? How do we enact this thing that we've been talking about? So marketing comprises, in my experience, 3 things: strategy, tactics, and action. So strategy is the plan, tactics are how we'll implement the plan, and action is, actually doing it. So we'll go through these things: strategy, tactics, and action. So first, we will set the strategy. And this is something that we talked a little bit about in the last webinar. We talked about setting the strategy. And to that point, we talked about establishing your mission, setting goals and success metrics, and then discovering your ideal listener or your audience. We also talked about setting meaningful goals and success metrics. But basically, what we're asking here is, how will you serve your audience? And in doing so, how will you serve yourself? So in order to set the strategy, you'll need to establish your mission, set your goals and success metrics, which we touched on briefly in the last webinar when we were talking about meaningful metrics and vanity metrics, and then discover your ideal audience listener, which some of you mentioned was a sticking point for you. I will have more information about how you find your ideal audience and your ideal listener for your podcast in my course, if that's something that you're interested in. Katie asks, someone said at PodCon panel we should start 2 weeks before launch. It kind of depends which aspect of marketing you're looking at. So with some of these, setting the strategy, you can start setting the strategy just as soon as you even get an idea to podcast. And that is establishing your mission, doing these things here. That can start super early. So after you set your strategy, you're going to develop your tactics. So what's the difference between strategy and tactics? I think that a lot of people get these confused and conflated. So the strategy is the how, and the tactics are the who and what and where and when. So I'll give you a little illustration here of these tactics. So I just have 9 ideas for marketing tactics here. And some of them you're already doing. Some of you are already doing social media. Some of you are already part of online communities. Many of you are hopefully taking advantage of word of mouth, which is when you just simply tell someone else about your podcast. Some of you are already doing in-episode promos. Maybe you're soliciting iTunes reviews, testimonials about your show. Maybe you've been working hard on your website and making sure that it's SEO friendly. Or maybe you're making sure that your metadata for your show is ASO or App Store optimization friendly. Maybe you're looking at getting professional reviews. Maybe you're entering into partnerships, doing co-branding with other podcasters and podcasts. Maybe you've started an email list, which can be a huge asset in your marketing. Maybe you're already doing merch. Maybe you have swag and stickers and pins and magnets and business cards. I picked up a lot of those from so many podcasters at PodCon, and I was so happy to see that people were taking their marketing seriously. It was just really cool to see. You can attend conferences and events. There might even be local meetups in your area where you should, again, come prepared with your business cards and such. And then finally, and I want to say optionally, there are paid options. Those of you who said that budget is a sort of restraint for you or something that you're concerned about, you can do most of these marketing tactics with zero budget. If you want, you can spend a little bit of money and do Facebook ads, Google AdWords, pair up with influencers, but that is optional. You should be able to market your show for free. Now, it will take time and energy, so, it's maybe not necessarily free, but it is free of monetary spending. Most importantly, when we're talking about tactics and strategy, here's the relationship. Your tactics, the tactics that you implement, should support your goals that you set for your strategy. So if your strategy is, here's my mission statement, and a meaningful metric to me is getting fan mail from someone who says I helped them publish their book, your tactics should support your strategy. So you should be finding a way to become successful and meet those success metrics using your tactics. So I hope that makes sense. Your tactics should support the goals you set for your strategy. Often what I see that happens is there's a disconnect between the strategy and the tactics. So someone has a strategy of one thing, and then they use tactics that they see other people using that is maybe not the right fit for their show, or it's maybe not the right fit for their strategy. So this is really important that you set the strategy first so that you can make smart decisions, because there's so many tactics. I showed you a list of 9 tactics. There are thousands of marketing tactics, but for you to pick the right ones, you need to have your strategy in place. So that's important. Even more importantly than getting your strategy and your tactics in place is taking action. Taking action. This gets neglected by the people who brand. All I can think about now is this phrase that you said, that if you build it, they will come. Because if you build it, then you've built it. You're not necessarily saying, hey, I built this. Nobody will know about your show if you don't tell them it exists. We touched on this a little in the last webinar, but I want to hit it home again. What we're going to do is take action on those tactics. So we're going to make a plan, and we're going to live out your strategy by acting on your tactics via that plan. And so this sounds a little weird at first, but you're going to make marketing and community building and existing in this community with your ideal listeners a part of your everyday life via a plan. And in order to do that, in order to make your plan, You're going to ask yourself a couple questions. So, number one, if you haven't launched your show yet, what are you going to do to prepare for your show's debut? Are you going to start that Twitter account 2 weeks before you launch? Are you going to start your Patreon account 2 weeks before you launch? Are you going to start that Patreon account 6 months before you launch? It all depends on what your strategy is and what your meaningful goals and metrics are. Next, ask, how will you let the world know about each episode? And again, think back to your strategy. How do you need to best get that message out there? And it's not easy. I'm not saying that any of this is easy, because it's not. Marketing is kind of hard work, but if you ask yourself these questions and you start to flush them out into an actionable plan, it will take you really far and you will begin to see the results that you want. What can you do to add value to people's lives? How can you make people's lives better? And really, what you're going to ask is, why are people going to listen to your podcast in the first place? What are you giving them? People's time is valuable. We are very busy people. And I'm not just speaking for myself. People in general are very, very busy. What can you give them of value that is worth them sacrificing 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of their time? What value are you adding inside your podcast? And then what kind of value can you add outside of the podcast to draw people into the value that they're giving them inside of your podcast? Finally, you're going to ask, what does this look like? What does taking action look like on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis? So some things you're going to do every day. I tweet every day because it supports my strategy. I make blog posts a couple times a year because it less supports my strategy, but I enjoy doing it. So I employ different tactics for different reasons at different times. This is really, these 4 questions, when you answer these, this will help you flush out your marketing plan and take action on the tactics that will in turn support the strategy. I hope this all makes sense. So yeah, you're going to make marketing your podcast part of your daily life. Is everybody with me so far? Is everybody sleeping? Are we good? Let me know in the chat if you're alive. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Some people say, yeah, this is very good. I never thought of that relationship between tactics. Yes, writing notes were good. Perfect. You're here taking notes. Oh, that makes me really happy. Good, good. I hope that you're taking notes. Oh, good. Awake and kicking. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, guys. That means a lot to me to know that you're, oh, perfect. Good. Take all the notes. So this brings us to the most powerful marketing principle of them all. And I talked about this a little bit during one of the talks I did at PodCon. And this is something that has stuck with me for years. And it's so important. This is the thing that can make or break your marketing. Nicole Birdie says, is it okay if I share the notes later? Absolutely. Oh, Dear Young Rocker says, worrying about marketing my podcast is part of my daily life. No, we're going to take that and we're going to put it into action. You're going to put that into action. You're going to make it part of your daily life and you're just going to love it. Well, you're going to love it or you're going to learn to love it. This powerful, powerful rule is called the 80-20 rule. And it goes back to adding value. When we were talking about what can we give, how can we add value to people's lives? We're talking about the 80-20 rule. So I'm going to explain this a little bit. In marketing, the 80-20 rule is quite simple. Oh, Brittany knows about the 80-20 rule. She says yes. The 80-20 rule is that you spend 80% of your time giving, 80% of your time and energy giving, which means providing value and promoting others. You need to spend, I'm going to say it one more time, 80% of your time and energy should be spent giving. That is to say, promoting value, providing value, and promoting others. Emma says she's learning more than she does in 3 weeks of college classes. You just made my day. This makes me really happy because this means I'm providing value to you. This is what I want to be doing. So 80% giving, spend 20% of your time and energy taking. So that's promoting your show, selling merch, talking about yourself. All right, 80% giving, 20% taking. And what I mean by that is 80% should be community building. You should be putting others first. And what that means is thinking about how you can provide value to others. They come first, not you. Podcasting is one of the ultimate acts of giving because you put so much work and time and energy into your show. And for the most part, aside from donations, none of us are getting paid. So podcasting is a true act of service. And it's an act of service that can change your life because it changed my life. But it needs to start as an act of service. I'm going to go back to the 80-20 rule here. When I see this violated, it's largely on, say, Twitter, and I see someone who's just out there spamming. And I see it a lot in maybe not even so much podcast Twitter. I see it a lot in book Twitter. And so these are authors who are really excited about their new book and they're just spamming everyone. Like every 10 minutes, they'll say, hey, my book's 99 cents. Go buy it. Go buy it. Go buy it. And I just see the cover of their book over and over and over again and just go buy it. Go buy it. It's okay. Stop spamming me. I don't want to give you money for your book because you haven't given anything to me. You haven't proven that you can add value to my life. You're selling. You're not building a community. You're not providing value. You're not giving. You're taking. So every once in a while, and you don't have to do that 100% of the time, which is why it's the 80-20 rule. 20% of the time, you can be like, hey guys, I love that you've been following me. I hope that I'm providing value to you. Buy my book. It would really help support me in my life and help me keep providing all of this cool stuff to you and hopefully helping you through life, all of that good stuff. So you can still sell. You can still take a little bit, but just make sure it is up to 20% of the time. Oh gosh, yeah, those bots. Oh yeah. Yep. I'm looking through the comments here. Yep. I scan author feeds in Twitter, and if it's all the same image and pitch, I skip them. Yep. I unfollow, I mute, I block. Because at the end of the day, and you can answer this question yourself by using empathy and putting yourself in people's shoes, do you want to be sold to? Do you like walking into Best Buy and having someone come up to you and say, hey, you should buy this TV. Let me pressure you into buying this TV. You should buy it. You should give me money. You should buy this TV. I don't want that. I don't have room in my life for that. I don't have room in my house for a TV, but I don't have room in my life for people to try to sell me things. Nobody wants that. 80-20 rule. Rashawn Foster says, I've done this by providing free workshops, introducing my listeners to resources, connecting with them by self-disclosing, etc. It's been fun. Now everyone's waiting for my book and show. Because when we use the if you build it, they will come, that's very passive. But if you build the audience, they're already there. You've built that audience. You've attracted people already, and they are waiting to buy your book, to listen to your podcast, to follow you. Putting others first is so important. Making a difference. This is what it's all about. For me, for my strategy, I talked a little bit earlier about our mission statement and what all of our marketing comes back to. At the end of the day, why are you making this podcast? For me, it's so that I can make a difference in people's lives. So I can tell them they're not alone. So I can live out my mission statement. One other thing that gets talked a lot about in marketing is this thought of authenticity. Podcasting is often called a cult of personality. And what I really want to say here is something that is counter to, I think, what a lot of us assume about podcast creating. Listeners are not there for your show. They care about you. Podcasting is a cult of personality, and people don't care about your show as much as they care about you. You may have a fantastic show. And I'm going to use, I see Eddie Louise says you should check out Chuck Wendig, who's an author who does this really well. Yes, Chuck Wendig does this so well. He creates community on Twitter, and people follow him not because he writes amazing books, but because he is so fun to follow on Twitter. I love him. I don't know him and he doesn't know me, but I love him. So in the same way, a lot of podcasters, they have this cult of personality. I was just at PodCon, and Lauren Shippen, who is the creator of the Bright Sessions, has so many followers and so many people who just adore her. And it's the Bright Sessions is a great show, but it's not necessarily because the Bright Sessions is a great show. It's because Lauren stayed true to her vision and put all of her love and hope and dreams into her show. Brad says, absolutely true. I've had a hard time convincing my co-host that personality trumps content. Yes. Yes. That's the secret. Podcasting is this cult of personality. There were probably people who would not listen to Girl in Space if I was not the creator of it, just because I've built these relationships personally with me as the creator with listeners. I realize now, after having said that, it sounds kind of arrogant, and I apologize for that, but it's true. So be the real you. I know some people say, be you unless you're a jerk, but no, be you. Let your visions shine through, and make sure that you have that vision clearly outlined in your strategy, and that you're living it out through your tactics, and that you're taking action on your tactics. All right, we're going to recap. We have just a few minutes left here. So the secrets to marketing that nobody knows. Marketing is connecting your show with the people who want and need it. You are building a bridge between your show and potential listeners who will find value and worth in the show you're creating. Number 2, make friends, build relationships. A lot of you, I'm seeing the chat's a little bit laggy for me. A lot of you are saying that you don't like the real you. And I feel like that's a whole nother webinar we can have in and of itself. I'll live stream about that at some point. But make friends and build relationships. The fact is, podcasting is a relatively small community. It's a relatively small community. There were a ton of people at Podcast Movement and PodCon this year. There will be a lot of people at PodFest and all of the other things. But compared to television, compared to movies, compared to blogging, we are a relatively small community. And we can help this whole community find success, because success isn't mutually exclusive. Like, me having success does not exclude you from having success. We can both succeed. And that's what's really beautiful about podcasting right now. And so what is it? A rising tide lifts all ships. That's what we're here to do. We're here to support each other, build friends, make relationships, help each other, and elevate the entire craft of podcasting as we do so. In order to do this, we're going to use marketing, which is number 1, setting the strategy, number 2, developing the tactics, and number 3, taking action. Finally, when you're doing that, please make sure that you are using the 80-20 rule. Please make sure that you are giving more than you take, and it needs to be significantly more. This isn't the 50-50 rule or the 60-40 rule. This is the 80-20 rule. That's how much you need to give before you can start asking things of people. Finally, make something worth talking about. I talked about this in the previous webinar about 5 secrets for podcasting success. And that is, it doesn't matter what your technology looks like. It doesn't matter what anything else looks like. If you don't have good content, it doesn't matter. Have a good show. Make something worth talking about, and people will market your show for you. I just want to wrap this up by saying now is a fantastic time to start podcasting. You can still get in on the ground floor of podcasting. There is plenty of room. This is also a fantastic time to start marketing. So if you're not doing that, watch the replay of this video, take notes, act on those notes. You've got this. I'm going to take a few questions. I've been seeing some questions coming in through the chat. Oh, I see a lot of people saying, no, I don't want to be myself. I don't want to be the real me. I'm doomed. Uh-huh. Roland Wengert says something extremely poignant here. He says, for the longest time, I only wanted to promote my stuff, and I only just started to do well when I promoted myself. Yep, it's about that cult of personality. So Emma asks, how do you tie in your personality to a show that isn't about you? So, for example, a totally fictional audio drama. That's what I do. And I can answer that in a few ways. First and foremost, by saying, if you are creating something, that show is about you. Every character you create is partially yourself. I know that some of us don't want to admit that if we're making, horror stories about serial killers, because who wants to admit that that's part of your psyche? But it is. Everything you make is partially you. And as a creator of a show, you're establishing a vision. You're establishing something, some change that you want to see in the world. You're establishing some sort of future. Because there's a reason that we create these things. We tell stories because they need to be told. We tell stories to change the world. We tell stories to course correct, right? And so that's how you tie your personality in. And I say another great way to tie your personality in with your creation, especially if it's an audio drama or fictional podcast of some sort, is to let people glimpse behind the curtain every once in a while. That's kind of fun. One of my favorite podcasters I follow is Paul Bay, who does the Black Tapes and the Big Loop and a few other shows. And I love it when he posts pictures of his dogs. They cheer me up. It makes my day. And I love seeing how another creator lives and works. So letting us take a quick peek behind the curtain every once in a while can be a great way to tie your personality to your podcast. Yes. Yes. So people are saying, yes, I agree. Daniel French says, is sharing my expertise a good 80-20 practice? Yes. So the question comes down to, are you helping people? Who are you helping when you share something? Are you helping other people by saying, hey, this is a picture of the microphone I use, and I thought, if you like my sound, this is a great microphone, you can pick it up. Or are you helping yourself? Are you saying, I'm posting a selfie with my microphone because my hair looks fantastic today, right? So who are you helping when you post things? Who are you helping when you talk about podcasting? So Forenza asks, what do you do if you want to offer your voice to help an audio drama? I get nervous still, and there are so many awesome audio dramas. The best thing that you can do is exist in a community with the creators. If they're in a place where they're sharing their information, if they share their email, go ahead and reach out to them, form a relationship with them, meet up with them at a conference. Most creators like myself are very desperately looking for talented people most of the time, and they may be open to having you help them out. So Gregory asks, I have conversations via Twitter with other audio drama creators, but because the show isn't out yet, I haven't met any consumers, so any people who are listening. Does that count as building relationships? How do I reach listeners before release? Gregory, that is a fantastic question. You can start finding listeners before release by doing a couple things. I would suggest that you start with one social media account, and that can be whatever is where your listeners are. And so that really means going through and understanding who your ideal listener is, who would be most helped by your show, who's most likely to listen to your show, who's most likely to enjoy it. Looking at those demographics. So if you have like a teenage horror comedy, so like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who would your demographic be? Well, probably people similar to that age, maybe slightly younger, who love other horror things. Maybe they're spending time on Instagram and Snapchat. Ergo, you should go where your ideal listener is. So maybe you should be on Instagram or Snapchat, even if it's not the most comfortable place for you. Going to where your potential listeners are after you've identified who those potential listeners are can be a very powerful place to connect with them. Another thing is you can find shows similar to yours who you think would have a similar audience and just take a look at who's following them. And this can be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just look at who they're following and maybe start following some of them. But you need to be careful when you're doing that, that you are not spamming them. I see that a lot on Twitter. So I will talk about another show and then someone else will like latch onto it. Another podcaster will be like, hey, if you like this Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast, you'd probably like my Scooby-Doo podcast. Haha. So don't be a leech. Don't jump on someone else's coattails, and don't openly advertise and say, "Hey, you'd probably like my show." Let people find you. When they find you, there's value in that. People love discovering things, so let them discover you, but also sort of nudge them into discovering you. That is a great question. Looking through, let's see. Oh, here's a good question from Lindsay who says, do you keep your personal social feeds completely separate from your project related feeds? What other ways do you keep yourself separate when you need to? Oh, that is a fantastic question, Lindsay. When I initially started, this is something that I experimented with. When I initially started, I didn't keep them separate. And I found that people were following me for different reasons. And those different reasons were getting all muddled up because I had different strategies for my personal branding and my show branding. And so when I launched Girl in Space, I separated out everything. And so now I have a Sarah Ray Werner Twitter where I tweet about marketing and content and podcasting and business related stuff. I have the Girl in Space Twitter account where I tweet about Girl in Space and I tweet about cool science stuff and I tweet about inclusion and all those different wonderful, warm things. And then I have the Right Now podcast Twitter where I tweet quotes from books. I tweet inspirational stuff. I connect with other writers and talk about my writing struggles. Each of those 3 Twitter accounts has a very different audience. And so it depends on what your audience looks like, because the people who follow Girl in Space and care about my fan art that I'm posting, they don't really care about the business tips that I'm giving over on my other Sarah Werner Twitter account. So I think it's a good idea to keep those separate. And as for separating yourself from listeners, just be careful how much of yourself you give away. And I say that as someone who tends to be not great at that. I tend to overshare. And so that's something that I'm still trying to work with as well. But there's a little bit of a fine control there between letting people peek behind the curtain and like throwing yourself at them and saying like, kidnap me. So there's a very fine line there that I think you just need to experience to balance. Let's see. The Sue Empire podcast, who's here in town with me, asks, got a preferred app for juggling all of those Twitter accounts? I did for a while. I was using Hootsuite for a while, which I still use if I want to do some auto posting. But really, I just use the Twitter app and I move between my 3 Twitter accounts. It's probably not the best way to do it, so I feel like this is not a super helpful answer, but that's how I do it. David says, I've been reaching out to ideal listeners that like similar shows as me on Tumblr, and it's been giving me major growth, but is that sustainable long term? Yes. Yes, it is. And because there's always going to be more shows, there's always going to be more people following those shows. So just check back every once in a while, see if they have some new followers, go ahead, follow them back. I think that's a fantastic strategy. That's how I initially built my Girl in Space following on Twitter. And it's something that I still use today. And I do that in a spirit of wanting to provide people with my show. If they like other shows and they're looking for shows like mine, then I will like them, I will follow them, but I will not say, hey, go listen to the Girl in Space podcast, because I think that act violates the 80-20 rule. Yes. Daniel French says, I was once told that I retweet other creators too much. How would that bother them? Boy, that's a great question. I think it comes down to how much you're doing it and why you're doing it, and if you are at the same time providing value to those other creators. So there's a very personal, I think, and very subtle sense of having your toes stepped on or stepping on other people's toes. And it's hard because it is so subtle. It's so subtle. But when you retweet other people, think about not only the audience that you're retweeting to, which should always be a big consideration, but also these other creators. Every time you retweet them or like, it shows up in their mentions. And so that might be something that might be one reason that they're bothered by it. I don't know, because I don't know exactly 100% your experience, but if they're sort of bigger names and they're just flooded with replies and stuff, maybe that might get old after a while. But just make sure you're providing value to people. And I think that's all I can say right now about that. Let's see. We are at 1:00. Oh no, we're at 1:00, but all these wonderful questions are still coming in. What I'm going to do is say thank you, I guess, because it's important. Thank you for attending this free training. I am so glad that you're here today. Trust me, you will not want to miss our next one. So our final session is January 30th. So that will be next Wednesday. That'll be our final session. That is going to be a Q&A where the entire time you can ask me whatever questions are on your heart, like whatever that burning question is, whether it's about marketing, whether it's about starting your show, what technology to use, how to market effectively, how to use social media, whatever it is that you want to ask, I will be here to answer it. So please do be here January 30th. I want to say see you for the next live stream. Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you all so much for showing up today. I'm so glad you're here. If you know of other podcasters who would benefit from this kind of information, have them sign up for my email list. It'll be the same link that you use to sign up. And I think there's a link in the description for this video right now. Have them sign up. I will be sending out emails with replay links, so they will still be able to see the video replays, even though they're not able to attend live. And again, if you would like to see these again, you will have access to the replay probably within 24 to 48 hours, depending on what my life looks like for the next few hours. But thank you all so much for being here. I hope you were able to take a lot away about marketing, tactics, strategies, all of that good stuff. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. Happy podcasting.